Michael Morales Torres para Lucha Libre Online, la marca número 1 de Pro Wrestling y Combat Sports en el mundo. Mi invitada especial directamente de Londres, Inglaterra, pero siempre representando a Texas en su corazón. Ella ha hecho de todo un poco, manejadora, luchadora ocasionalmente, anfitriona de su propio programa junto con otras damas que vamos a hablarles de eso ya mismo. Ha hecho de todo en la industria de la lucha libre. So Cal Val o Valerie Winham llega aquí a Lucha Libre Online. Val, it is an absolute honor to have you as our guest. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Muchas gracias for having me. I was trying to understand a little bit. I heard corazón, I heard heart. That's about all I understood, but I'm trying my best.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Speaking about heart and God, this is to me the most important part of the interview because I follow the product, I consume the product constantly, and I'm talking about God TV. Grown-ass women. Literally, we have Mickie James, we have Lizzie Marie Varon, formerly known as Victoria, and so Cal Val. You gals do interviews, you gals have margaritas, you guys have fun doing what you love. It's more, it's more than wrestling in general. You talk about life, about gossip, about basically everything that people are interested in knowing about the pro wrestling industry and the three of you and your respective lives. So my first question for you is, how did the three of you pair together and started this huge project?
Well, thank you. Yes, it is exactly what you said. It's really an ultimate slumber party. It's cocktails, we're in our pajamas. It's all of sort of the unfiltered conversation that you would get if you were to hang out with Lisa, Mickie, and myself after a show, after an event. It's girl talk. And like you said, very well said. Thank you for that, for doing your research and being a fan. I really appreciate that because it's not just wrestling. We have a lot of guests from different genres who might want to make sure that it's not just catering to our beloved wrestling fans, and we love wrestling fans, but we have a lot of different interests and things like that. So we try to make it a well-rounded program. But actually, I was contacting Nick Aldis and Mickie about doing something in the pandemic because I said I love doing interview shows, and I was doing some for my own influencer network. I do blogging, and I try to do a lot of presenting for fashion and beauty and things like that I'm interested in. But I thought, I have all of these amazing, famous friends. Why not do an interview series? And when we started to talk about it, Mickie was like, oh my gosh, Val, like I've been trying to come up with another, sort of similar idea. And we thought, immediately it was like, we've got to get Lisa involved. We've got to get Lisa in. And, she was basically like a few seconds into the conversation, we had to get Lisa in. And we thought that the trifecta of the three of us would be a cool mix because it's really an interesting dynamic. Mickie's still very heavily involved in wrestling. She's an active wrestler. She's a mom. She's in her 40s. I'm in my, oh my God, as of next week, I'll be in my late 30s because I'm turning 36. Can you believe that? So I'm in my 30s-ish, living in England. I've had kind of a different presenting career. I'm not a physical wrestler as they are. Lisa is, just turned 51 and she's in her, sort of after wrestling days, but still doing a lot of active roles within Comic Cons and things like that. So it's a cool dynamic. We're all at different kind of points in our lives and different points in our wrestling careers, but we wanted to come together and have something that was different, like just kind of a fun, girly conversation. We focus a lot on female empowerment and it's just fun. It's a giggle fest. And especially in COVID, we needed like an escape. And it's that sort of show that there's not a lot of thinking that goes involved. Pour yourself a cocktail, put on something comfortable and come join us for a little chit chat. That's really what it is.
Val, I need to ask you, the three of you are in total different time zones. Victoria or Lisa Marie is in Pacific, I believe. Mickie is still on Eastern time. You are on GMT, and sometimes your guests are from Central Standard Time. Like, how do you manage to work between schedules, between you working progress, between Mickie working multiple shows as well, Lisa's working as conventions, as you mentioned? Like, how the three of you, plus the guests, manage to make it work?
That's a great question. You know what? No one ever asks us that, but it's really astute because we are literally on all those time zones, Nashville, California, England, close to London. And we've had people from India and different places. And it's just Australia. A lot of people tune in from Australia and Germany. We actually are surprised by that, which thank you to the God TV fans. We thought that our primary audience would be in US. And a lot of them are, but a lot of them are like in Australia, India, parts of Europe, whatever. And the filming, it's in a weird way, it's actually easier for me. Sometimes it's really late, but I'm kind of a late night person. And let's be honest, it's always cocktail hour when I'm filming. It's always like 8 p.m. minimum to like 11 or midnight. So like, I'm like, yeah, it feels like a cocktail party for me. So I actually feel bad for them sometimes because if we don't do it live, we film it when we're able to, which is another wonderful, beautiful part of the show that we can film when they're available, especially Mickie being so busy with her active wrestling schedule. So sometimes when we film it like 1 p.m. for them, I'm like, oh, it's 5 here or 6 here or whatever it is with the time zones. And I'm like in cocktail hours. So I kind of feel like because I'm a night owl, it helps me, but it can be really, really late nights. Because the thing is, once you're just like this, like when you're doing an interview, you're like on and you've got lights on and you're like excited and you're bubbly and the adrenaline's running. So for me, if we stop filming at like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., I'm up till like 4 because I'm just like, that was so fun. And we're talking about it after. And yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's funny for me, but I like staying up late. So it actually works out really well for me.
Yeah, for people that don't sleep like me, it's perfect. And I guess for you like that. So I want to say something in Spanish as well. Go TV o GAWTV está disponible ahora mismo en YouTube. Simplemente tienen que llegar allí, denle el botón de subscribe, denle a la campanita, estén pendientes. Hay de todo un poco, hay contenido como les mencioné, hay tragos, hay fun, es como un pijama party eterno entre damas que están amando lo que hacen y hablando un poco de la vida y de la industria. Así que Go TV, suscríbanse ahora mismo en YouTube, disponibles también en Instagram y en Twitter. Síganlas en las redes sociales porque créanme, vale la pena. Which leads me to my actual next question. And you touched that earlier today. And okay, your bio says, and I quote, occasional professional wrestler. So Cal Val, at least to my life as a fan or a journalist or whatever we may call it, came into my life, you know, while you were on TNA as a valet, doing multiple things. I recall the Jay Lethal storyline, which we will discuss, you know, eventually in this conversation. But how did or what caught your eye enough in order to decide to enter inside the wrestling industry, but not in the traditional way?
Yeah, no, it's a great question because even like when I do Comic Cons, they'll put wrestler and I'm like, I'm not really a wrestler. I never sought out to be a wrestler or go after title, you know, championships and things like that. So I wanted to be, you know, the Stephanie McMahon. I wanted to manage. I wanted to be the acting side of it, the speaking side of it, just like you, like presenting. And, you know, that's kind of where I feel is my comfort zone and that's my strong place. I'm not athletic. I bruise like a peach. I'm not a big, you know, physical exertion kind of a person. So that was never my MO. I just wanted to be involved in sort of more like the diva way. Like we had Tori Wilson and Candice Michelle on the show recently, and I was talking about how, with all due respect to serious wrestlers, like not everyone wanted to be Alita or in this case, modern Sasha Banks. I wanted to be, you know, if I'm talking in modern terms, if I was 12 years old watching, I would want to be Lana. I wouldn't want to be, you know, and I love the female wrestlers. They're great. But as far as what I wanted to emulate and do myself was the talking and managing, of course, was really cool because that kind of was the acting side of things. I'm big into film and TV and acting, and I've had some acting experience and things like that and really enjoyed it and thought I was pretty decent at it. But then with the acting, the only thing about acting and doing managing is then there's not a whole lot of longevity if your career, your storyline rather, sort of ends. Because then you're like, well, what do I do now? So then the presenting stuff, if you have skills to be a presenter, to host an interview, to command sort of a presence in terms of a host presenter, they say presenter here in the UK, MC, you know, ring announcing, anything like that, you really can last a really long time in wrestling. If you're just one character, you know, it ebbs and flows, you might fizzle out, whatever, your storyline doesn't make any sense anymore, someone gets injured, so many things can happen. But if you have the gift of gab, and if you have a strong presenting side of things and a skill set that goes beyond managing, you can really last a long time. And I mean, I've been doing this, it'll be, oh my gosh, here we go again, it'll be on March
years.
Yeah, March 30th, it'll be 20 years, which is insane. I always count for my first independent show. So that just shows you right there. That's a pretty long career for someone that started at like 16, and I'm still luckily pretty heavily involved, which is really cool.
Which leads me to my next point. You started in this industry underage, which is not normal in the States. Yes, it's normal in Latin America. For example, Mexico, it's pretty common for talent to start 13, 14 years old, but Val entered when you were like 15 years old, I believe, at that point. What did your parents thought, you know, of this career decision you made back then?
Another great question, because nobody ever asks about that. And I always have to bring it up, but it's just my mom. So my mom's a widow, and she was like, you know, if this business changed, she's like, what is this wrestling stuff? And I'm the girliest. I have only 2 older sisters, no dad, no brothers. And she was just like, and I'm like the girliest out of all of us. I'm not like a sports person. I'm like, ew, dirt and gross and sports. So she was like, what the hell's going on? And when I liked it, she kind of understood that I liked it because of like the female empowerment side of it and like the, you know, the boss characters and like the acting. And she was like, well, okay, you always have to have someone with you. Like for the first couple of years, I had to have someone with me that was like, my friends were like 30 plus, a guy and a girl, and they would go with me to shows. And she said, not only do you have to have someone with you, But if I see this business changing you, if it's sort of, I don't know, messes with your manners or your attitude, things like that, she goes, I will yank you right out of it. And she could have, I was that young. And she said to this day, which is a really sweet testament to her, that I've always remained myself. And I've always, been kind of the good girl, the little sister to all the guys and stuff. So I feel like I did okay in that sense. It can be just like any entertainment, it can be kind of a crazy business. But if you have a strong sense of self, you have a strong upbringing, and I really, really did. I have an independent mother that really taught me well. You can make it work for you,
We should.
I hope so.
20 years in the business, like
20 years.
It's not normal for a valet or for a manager to extend his or her career that long. So kudos for that, and making yourself relevant in the industry.
Thank you so much.
2006, a young Cal Val entered the mainstream wrestling world with, at that point, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, or TNA. Prior to that, you had a character, at least for our research, and I recall in your previous interviews, based on Stephanie McMahon and her $1 billion princess persona, mixed with all of her eras. Why did Valerie Winham or Cal Val took Stephanie McMahon as an inspiration? You could have choose anyone, but you choose Steph. Why?
That is, I always joke, but I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of not. She's like, when it comes to wrestling, she's my personal Jesus. Everything head to toe was what I wanted to be. She was glam. She was strong. She stood up to adversity. She stood up to her husband. She, had a career. She was sassy. She got her way. She had made no apologies. Yes, she was a heel character, a villain, if you will, but I just loved that. And she was just everything that I wanted to be. So I sort of kind of created the Cal Val character with her first and foremost in mind. And then as I started doing research, I kind of started to take little parts of people that I loved as well. Miss Elizabeth, very much so in the TNA days, the evening gowns and the gloves and the elegance and sort of a sophisticated turn, because a lot of girls in wrestling, with all due respect, they're not, they don't love like that vintage vibe. They don't love like really dressing up. And that's just what I love in daily life. You see me in an airport and I've got like a cape and like a hat on. Like I'm just that person that lives for accessories and bold colors and things, and an entrance. I'm very dramatic. So at least when it comes to clothing. So Miss Elizabeth was a big inspiration. Missy Hyatt, who was a hotel heiress, hence the name Wyndham, is why I chose the name Wyndham. She was very inspirational to me when I was starting to watch her old tapes. Sunny, Dawn Marie, these sort of characters that were, if you think about it, they were all kind of similar to Stephanie McMahon. They kind of had bratty, rich biatch kind of characters that just, cheated, but then acted all innocent, and they were damsels in distress at some points, but then they used that sort of damsel in distress to their advantage, like I did. Allegedly, in that ladder of love match, no big whoop. They used it to their advantage and sort of used their femininity for good and evil. And that really intrigued me.
2006, a 19-year-old young Valerie Winham enters TNA, and there's a locker room full of A+ talent everywhere. How did you manage, between all those talent, men or women, get TV time at that young age and make yourself relevant in Impact, or back then TNA?
Yeah, well, it's a good question, because technically, probably TV time probably came around 2009, before, because Ring Girl, I was having some TV time, but it was just Ring Girl. But I technically, like, my first show from TNA was like late 2004, but I was Ring Girl first. Before that, I was doing production backstage. I was a production assistant, David Sahadi, and I would just come to the shows with my little tape, my resume, and just talk to the people and say, and I knew some of the wrestlers, and I was like, I'm just here for the right reasons. I just want to contribute to the show. What do you need? You need me to do this? You want me to manage? You want whatever? And the first thing was production assistant. I did that. Then it was like Jeremy Borash was like, will you do Ring Girl? I said, yeah, hoping it would lead to more and more things. And not until 2009 did it come up that they would have me in a storyline. And funnily enough, it was in a love triangle storyline, which is exactly the reason that I loved wrestling, like a Kurt Angle, Stephanie, and Triple H storyline. That was like my favorite one ever. So how funny that not only was I put into a storyline, but they let me be my character, and especially eventually when I got to turn heel. But then, it was very much my character. It was in my kind of wheelhouse, and it was part of a storyline that I really loved. It could have been anything. It could have changed me and made me goth, or like made me in a storyline that I'd have to like really do research. It was just, everything came really naturally, because that's what I was doing on the independent scene too. So yeah, that took quite a while. And then after that, again, with the longevity thing, like then Jay Lethal and Sanjay left the company, and it was like, well, what are you going to do now? And they said, well, will you do Ring Girl again? And I said, yeah. It's a bit of a step backwards. They said that, not me, but I agreed because it was a step backwards. And then came the presenting stuff. So if you stick with it, I mean, I could have easily been like, no, I'm not going back to doing that. I'm going to go, make a name for myself somewhere else. And that would have been okay. But I just thought, I love this company. I've grown up in this company and they need me to now be ring girl again. Let me do it. And then luckily I stuck with it. I had faith in myself and thought I have other talents. Let them see that. And people like Mike Weber, who is the COO of Fight TV, was really my champion in terms of like, this girl can talk. And he let me do social media videos. I started editing. He saw all the kind of other skills I did, and he gave me the ball and I ran with it. And that's really I literally work with Fight TV today. I spoke to him today on the phone. And luckily it started a relationship with him and with other people seeing me as a presenter and not just this wrestling girl. So that was really, really helpful to kind of bridge that gap from like one storyline to then, oh, she actually can talk and hold her own in interviews and things like that.
Ladder of Love match. It's not that common to have that kind of storyline in wrestling, but when it is on TV, it is usually really good. We love gossip. We love the tea. We love, as we call in Puerto Rico, chisme or bochinche. Like we love that kind of drama or telenovela style matches.
Yeah, escándalo.
Yeah, el scandal. Like we freaking love it. You were part of it. You mentioned with Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt. We want to know the tea behind this background. Like who produced the match? Who came up with the idea? And how did Cal Val was picked for this role?
I think because I was ringside, I'm assuming I'm so long ago, but I'm trying to think. I think it was kind of organic that like I would get people's jackets and things. And it was like a little bit of a cute thing when Jay Lethal would like kind of pay attention to me at ringside. And it was like a little bit of a spark there. Then they took that and ran with it. Then Sanjay and he had this friendship. And then it was just so freaking funny to get him involved. Some of my favorite things I've ever done are when we went on dates. And Sanjay was just like, Jay Lethal was on GAW TV recently. And he was laughing. He's like, do you remember we did those vignettes backstage? And like Sanjay was just everywhere. We'd go to a theme park and he was there. Then he was the waiter. Then we're in a hot tub and he just, pops up with a snorkel. Like it was so random. And that's the kind of stuff I loved about wrestling too. It wasn't super serious. It was very lighthearted and it was fun and funny. And I was just so thrilled to do that. But yeah, so it kind of snowballed from there with the Jay Lethal storyline. Then it was kind of like, ooh, we could have more longevity with this. And kind of have the wedding. The wedding was amazing and so much fun and dramatic. A scandalo, like I said, I always say that very from Drag Race and big Drag Race fans. I always say a scandalo. I think that's Valentina. I can give her credit.
Perfect Spanish.
Yeah, thank you so much, muchas gracias. So then, we have the wedding, and of course things go awry as they always do. And then the heel turn was amazing, and that was like the epitome of me just feeling like myself because I always was a heel. So to play that baby face was actually kind of weird for me. I was like, I can do it, but I don't feel like Val. That's not Val. When I turned on Sanjay and when that kind of persona came out, I'm like, this is Val. This is what I've been doing. This is why I signed my name with the $sign, like rich, greedy, biatch, hotel heiress. That's the kind of character that I created for myself and kind of did the amalgamation of all my favorite girls into my own little Cal Val project. So that was fun. I will say in the back, I remember Vince Russo being a big part of a lot of those promos and pre-tapes and things like that. He would come in and he always does this clap and he was like just so, but it sounds funny, but like his clap that he does, it just got everybody like, all right, we're doing this. And he got everybody really riled up and he really believed in it. And he also like always asked us our input. He loved like Sanjay's sense of humor. He loved he kind of let us run with it, which I think was really cool and really woke and progressive because we were really young. And it's like, he could have just said, do this, say this. And it was not like that. It was like, what do you think about this? And he really got our input, which I was always really, really grateful for.
Many people criticize Russo's work, but I think he's great producing TV. Like it's not about wrestling itself, like it's TV time, and he did a great job with that storyline.
Right.
Along with the three of you.
Yeah, my experiences exactly because my personal experiences are that he was phenomenal with that. I can't speak for anything else, and that's kind of how you have to look at life in a way, right? They're just gonna go, oh, I have a bad reputation. Well, if they were nice to you, and in my case, he was really open and great working with us. I was forever grateful for that. Really, really thrilled with him. Yeah.
You had a brief moment on WWE TV, I believe, back in 2005 with Luther Reigns, that vignette and everything. A young Cal Val on WWE as well.
Yeah.
Well, what was going through your head knowing that, okay, this is like to many people that this was the Mecca, this was the top, and you reached it so fast in your career. How did that happen?
Well, you know, it's funny because people don't really get like what happens. They're like, did they like call you for that specific thing? It's like, no. So what happens is you get called to be an extra. So I was called by Rick Bassman, and I was like, oh my God. And I think I was 17, I believe. Yeah, I was not 18 yet. I know this for a fact. And I will talk about that in a second, why I remember that. So Rick Bassman was so cool. And he's like, you know, they want to look at you. And I remember Johnny Ace called me and he was like, do you wrestle? And at that time I was like, I would wrestle. I'd still train to wrestle. I was more open to it back then because I kind of, to be honest with you, I didn't really realize that. And back then it wasn't really an option to be more of a speaking person. I think you had to do all of it. And I was like, I'll try it, you know, whatever. And it's WWE, you know, you do whatever they require of you and you learn. So backstage, there was just happened to be a promo that they needed extras for. So you see me in the back with another girl. The girl that was with me is actually the wife of the now wife of Tyler Rex, who was Gabriel
Tough
Kidd, I believe. Gabriel Tuft. That's right. Gabe Tuft. There's a Gabriel Kidd here. Yeah. So she was auditioning. She's a fitness model, and a couple people that Rick Bassman brought in. And yeah, but the reason I was freaking out was because I was marking out, as we say, is Stephanie was producing it. So she asked me to do it. And I was like, okay. And I remember calling my friend and being like, oh my, in the bathroom and freaking out. Like she personally spoke to me. I was dying. So that was amazing, but it was just a quick promo. But the reason I remember how old I was is because Johnny Ace was very much like, yeah, where, you know, we did promos in the back. I did a promo with Brooklyn Brawler. He seemed impressed. I really was proud of myself and held myself, I think, very well. And then Johnny Ace was talking to me about like, you know, just getting more information. And he goes, so how old are you again? I said, oh, well, sir, I'm 17. And I literally remember his face just going, and that was, I remember thinking, there's my chance. It still gives me chills because I was so like, ouch, it was hard because they don't hire people that young. They didn't then. You don't hire people that are under 18, you know, in whatever it was, 2000 and whatever. So I remember being like, oh, damn. And I thought, you know, maybe down the line, then of course, Impact Wrestling worked out and the rest is history. But I remember that age gap, and I hadn't seen him since, but I would love to tell him that story because it was so funny. And he just was like, oh, darn, you know, like, but to me, it was like, oh, there was my chance. It's gone. Just
in the chest, just in the heart. It's like, Jesus Christ. You mentioned something really important, and I need to talk about this. You met the $1 billion princess. That was your idol. That was your go-to as a 17-year-old girl. How did that happen? How were you internally? Like, did you relax? Did you chilled out, or did you exploded externally?
I think inside I'm dying, but I think in person I was kind of like, I tried to be professional. I'm sure I was smiling ear to ear, like just, you know, I'm sure my face was like, hi, you know, like that. But it's funny because then I met her later again. This was like 2013 or 14, right after I had left Impact, and I did more extra work. And I don't know why on earth would she know who I was, but I was coming into the building. It was a weird story. Coming into the building, my little bag is Miami, and she and Triple H and a bodyguard were walking by, and they both looked at me, especially her. She looked at me. So I thought I have to say hello because then I'm a real biatch if I don't say hello, right? Like you have to say something because and that's how I was taught in wrestling, especially it's an etiquette to say, hello, how are you? And shake hands. So I said, oh, you know, so nice to meet you. Thank you for having me. I'm Val. And she was so nice. She smiled. She goes, hi, Val. And she smiled and shook my hand. And I was like, oh my God, die. And then Triple H was kind of like, hello. And I was like, oh, okay. Terrified. So scary. So I was like, oh, because he's my favorite of all time, dying. So I never got to this day, I've never actually spoken to her. Yeah. Or him.
Oh, wow.
And I've worked with Paul Heyman now, who's like the best. And he asked like, how are they? And I've asked everybody and their mom, like, cause I'm just such fans of them both, but it just has never happened that I've actually sat down and been like, I'm huge fans and you guys have like changed my whole career path. And like, I just love you both. And it's a shame because I hope one day, you know how the world works. It'll happen one day where I'll sit down and be like, listen, I'm an uber fan. But those little instances meeting her and then him super briefly. And then there's other times I've been backstage where they've walked by, but I haven't had a chance to say hello. But that was the only time I said hello and I was dying. I had a cute outfit. That's all I remember. And I thought, I hope they think I look cute. And that's about it.
So you were dressed for the occasion. That's the most
important
important thing.
Oh, I came in always. Like, oh yeah, I had my outfit. I had like jewels on. Yeah.
I want to say something in Spanish as well before we go to our last topic due to time issues. Valerie está disponible ahora mismo en todas las redes sociales, pero en Instagram la pueden seguir como Official Soul Cal Val, Official Soul Cal Val en Instagram. En Twitter también está disponible como Soul Cal Valerie. Está disponible también para bookings en todo el mundo, en Puerto Rico, en Argentina, en Chile, donde usted que quiera buscarla, puede contactarla directamente a través de scvwebteam@gmail.com o cvwebteam@gmail.com para bookings, para todo lo que usted desee. Ella está disponible ahí. Lo más importante, síguela en las redes sociales, GoTV, excelente programa. Ella también está disponible en múltiples plataformas, pero lo más importante es GoTV y Cal Val. Síganle en las redes sociales. Está haciendo de todo un poco en el contenido. Hay hasta contenido para adultos, así que pueden ir a las redes sociales y hacer clic para llegar al otro lado. Val, let's go to our last question, but it's been an absolute honor to have you here as our guest. You are such a star,
can I just say, host to host, you are amazing. You should be very proud of yourself. Such a pro. Bravo.
Thank you.
Impressed.
That's a huge compliment. Thank you very much for that.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Last but not least, you're active in the industry. You're doing multiple things at the same time, but one of those things is Progress. Progress in the UK, they had their first all-women's show, and it blew my head. I had the opportunity to Jesus freaking Christ, like that was amazing. Like it was so needed inside the wrestling industry. How did you get involved with Progress and the women's show in general? Like, I want to take your intake on that. What's your opinion?
Thank you. Yeah, well, the thing is, when I moved here about 6 years ago, and I've been coming to do shows here for like the last like maybe 8 or 9 years, Progress is something that everyone talks about as the biggest thing. And like, let's be honest, a lot of the independents are great, but Progress is really the one that everyone focuses on, and they have the WWE network connection. They're doing well, and they're doing a lot of progressive things, no pun intended. And I was contacted to do this female show. And what's funny is I've never really worked for them before. Like I've always kind of talked to them here and there, or like when I was working more with Fight TV, recruiting people, I talked to them a little bit, and it just never kind of turned out, nothing nefarious. It was just like, oh, people lose touch, whatever. And then I was contacted to do this, and I saw the name of the show, and I was like, oh my God, it's all females, and it's called Who Run the World. And that, I'm like, the title alone, I'm totally sold. Not only that, but then when I started to, before the show happened, I was then explained to that, okay, so it's an all-female card, all-female commentary, female refs, female ring announcer. It is literally sisters before misters, girls running the show, deservedly so. And of course, we love our male wrestling colleagues and all that, but this was great to have a show that was just ours. Just ours. And the people that they chose to be in this show, like, Impact Wrestling Knockout, Giselle Shaw. We had Alexis Falcon, Alex Windsor. Just the list goes on and on. Trisha Dora. There are different nationalities, different backgrounds, different move sets, different aesthetic looks, different styles, all of that. So I just thought it's not just one of those shows where, it's a girl match here or there, or the same type of girls. It was just different types of women's wrestling. So for that reason, I thought it was diverse. I thought it was a really cool concept. I hope it's going to be one of many. And of course, you can always catch the replay, progresswrestling.com. This is Progress on Twitter and Instagram. They're such an amazing company. And the thing is, they've been championing women's wrestling for a long time. If you do go back and look at their archives, but this was their first all-female show. And as you can see, if you did miss it, catch the replay. It was just electric. And the thing is, none of this could have been done without Progress giving them the platform. So yes, the women can be amazing, they're talented, but it's a kudos to Progress for giving these females a platform, which they so deserve. They gave them the ball and they ran with it. I'll put it that way. They completely just smashed it out of the park, and it was amazing. Yes, I'm using sports references, which even I didn't understand, but you get what I mean, right?
I definitely understood. Val, it was a delight to have you as our guest. We want to wish you success in your career, in your personal life, and in every project you have. You're always welcome back here in Lucha Libre Online. Thank you very much. And let's hope to see more of Cal Val in the whole wrestling industry.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. Amazing time chatting with you. You did a great, great, great job. And you guys are fabulous. I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you. And let's wrap this up en español. Esta fue Cal Val y Michael Morales Torres para Lucha Libre Online, la marca número 1 de Pro Wrestling y Combat Sports en el mundo.